Hi, my name is Mazal Horesh. I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Emma and I met through an online chronic illness support group on Facebook in 2014. He was one of the first people that I actually met in that group, online met, and then definitely one of the first people that I met in person. He was living in New York at the time. I was living in Philadelphia. I went to New York to visit family. We went to a Jewish deli that he picked out, and that was the first time we met in person. I saw Emmett a few days before he decided to go into hospice. Went to his apartment. We were just hanging out, and he was really sick at that point in time. He was telling me that he was in the process of deciding to go into hospice. Didn't know how long it would be before he died. I told him goodbye then because I didn't know when I would see him again. I didn't know how long it would take. A day or two after that, he made a Facebook post saying he was going into hospice. It was sort of from the beginning that I was involved in that. A big part of how it worked and why it worked the way it did was that it was full of a lot of people who had a lot of experience doing medical advocacy, mainly for ourselves, but also for our friends. I think that was a big part of what worked about it, is that we were all there to advocate for Emmett and did so and needed to do so on many occasions with the staff of the various places that he was being held for hospice care. There was a very large contingent of rabbis in training. There's a specific type of person who decides to go into being a rabbi or a cantor. And that is also a very caring person who wants to care for other people, actively getting training for that as well, training in spiritual guidance care. Another part of going to school to become a rabbi, leading groups of people. And so we were a large group of people, and there were a lot of people there who were actively going through training of how to organize. Yeah, that's the word. There was a lot of organizing going on there. Not everyone there was Jewish, but a lot of us are Jewish. And so we're already coming from a background of a decentralized, organized movement, no central authority. We were a group of people who largely feel comfortable leading. If there was just one or two of us there, or if there were a whole bunch of us there, it wasn't an uncomfortable prospect to be leading if other people left and were no longer taking that position. And maybe it was self-selecting, but I don't think it was self-selecting so much as that's just who Emmett chose to become friends with.
What did it look like?
So there were two rooms because Emmett was at Penn first before moving out into the suburbs when Penn decided, okay, you're taking too long to die. Room at Penn was much more like a hospital room. You know, it had the tile floors that you see in hospitals and schools that are the type that's easy to mop up. There wasn't much character to the place. We built a lot of character into it. There was a lot of decorating going on. I actually have hanging up in my living room 2 framed things that were art that was hanging up in the room. One of them was something that I had made to hang up. Someone else made it, and I don't actually know who made it. Right after Emmett died, I had gone around and taken pictures of a lot of the art in the room. So I have a lot of those somewhere. It absolutely got distributed. Everyone who was there was sort of like, okay, I would like this one and I would like that one. Yeah, so the first room was very much a hospital room. It had the hospital curtains hanging down. Even though it was a single, it still had the curtains around the bed. When Emmett switched to the other place, it was a big house out in the suburbs, a huge house. You walk in the front door and there's this spiral staircase. And I actually had a broken foot at the time, and they had a chairlift that I was needing to go up with my little knee scooter. The people there had absolutely no idea. I guess I was the first one who had ever needed this because there was no elevator, but the people who were in hospice weren't going up and down the stairs. And I guess they never had such a bulk of disabled people going at the same time. They seemed very mystified with all of us, the people who worked there. Just a bunch of young queer people. And we were always there. There was always someone in Emmett's room. He didn't want to be left alone. And back to organizing, we had organized amongst ourselves to make sure that there was always someone in the room with him. There was someone spending the night every night, and we would take turns with that. Thankfully, in the second place, there was a second bed. So the first place, there was this teeny little couch that was way too short for anyone to actually lay on. And it was just a couch covered with sort of plasticky fake leather that's easy to clean. The second one had a whole bed, which was really nice, and some really comfortable chairs. But that one, it was a huge room and it was all carpeted. It very much was an actual bedroom in an actual house. And that house had a lot of character, much more homey.
I remember him describing the second hospice center as a creepy Airbnb. Which is very Emmett.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Honestly, if there was a highlight, the people for this whole experience, very emotionally trying few months. And the people were, of course, the biggest highlight.
What did Emmett's room look like? How was it decorated?
Taped up all over the walls. A lot of coloring book pages and little paintings that people had made. And it wasn't a hospital. And you weren't hearing all the hospital sounds. Much more of a group home sort of feel. And we had that big thing that people decorated, the banner. Yeah, that we decorated. That was at the first place. That place felt like it had a lot of history.
There was like a lot of Judaica.
Yes, there was.
Why was that?
A lot of hospice places that started as Jewish places because Jews weren't allowed in the other hospice places. So I just sort of assumed it was that. Judaism is a religion that does put a lot of importance on caring for each other, and especially on caring for sick people. That is something that is inherent to the religion, having that community model of care, self-sufficiency and care for the other people in our community. And there are definitely pockets of Judaism that are more or less like that. Clearly, the pocket that we found is more like that. It feels like something that has gone back for millennia. What we found was really special, but I don't know that it is new. That's why we start our prayers the way we do. Adonai is like king. Adonai is one. We follow God. We do not follow the organized state.
How did Emmett motivate people to show up for him?
I don't really know that he had to do anything other than to be himself. Like, people wanted to be around him. He was just a lovely person to be around. And so I don't think he had to do much motivating. He just said, I don't want to be alone. So we'll make that happen then. And it takes courage too to ask that. He was just a person people wanted to be around. He made you feel like you were special too. When you were with him, he gave you the entirety of his attention. It's just a shame that he didn't get to practice as a rabbi because he would be really good at it.
The thing is, we got to experience where that congregation that existed. And
he would be in his bed and we would just sort of be in a circle around the base of the bed, getting to know each other, because a lot of us didn't know each other before meeting because we were coming from different facets of his life. We did art, we played games, sang a lot, played with Roxy, listening to audiobooks. And I remember on the first yard site that we had a Zoom ceremony. Not everyone was on Zoom, but most of us were on Zoom because it was week 2 of pandemic lockdown. There were like 3 or 4 people in person, and the rest of us were all joining in on Zoom. But we had this very lovely celebration.
You have EDS, right?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of the same things that's part of how we first bonded, was we were going through the diagnosis process at the same time. And Nico too. Nico's actually who told me that EDS was a thing that existed. We were all 3 of us were going through the diagnosis process at the same time. And that's how we bonded. There's a lot of bouncing off of each other, saying, well, who is your doctor? I should see that doctor, because we all live very close to each other, saying we should see this person. That person is not good. Don't see that one. And I went to a lot of Emmett's doctor's appointments with him when he first moved to Philadelphia, when he had a really terrible GI doctor who was just awful. And I went to a lot of his appointments with him just to yell at the doctor for him. I had to fight for years for them to say, okay, well, it's actually not this unspecified thing that we just gave you a name for so you would shut up and go away.
What kind of lessons do you think we can learn from him about disability, about chronic illness, about how we build community?
The way that we can advocate for each other. He, in showing advocating for himself, and when he was more healthy, he did a lot. Not that he didn't do this when he was really sick too. When I say more healthy, I mean still very, very sick, just not literally in hospice. He was able to put more energy towards advocating for other people, which he did a lot. And he didn't stop that when he was in hospice either. He didn't have as much energy to put towards it, but he didn't stop it. Yeah. He did that until he was physically unable. Every single aspect, everything he had that could be helpful to someone. Literally directly behind the camera, I have the air filter that he had in his room in hospice that I have been using ever since then to help, because I have really severe mast cell issues. I have his first manual wheelchair when he switched to an electric wheelchair. He gave me his manual one because I couldn't get insurance to pay for anything. I couldn't afford one. It's sitting in my car, parked in front of my house right now. All sorts of things like that are just helpful. I have some special pillows that he had given me. All sorts of things like that. And that wasn't just me. He did that for everyone. Everything he could think of that would help someone, he figured out a home for it. I can't imagine having that little energy and being that sick and still putting that little bit of energy that you have just completely for other people. I can only hope that I will also be like that whenever my turn comes, which is hopefully far away. I don't think any of us can know until we're in that position. I spent a week in the hospital in November. I had sepsis, and with all the meds that they were giving me and stuff, I was so out of it. I have almost no memories of that whole week I was in the hospital. I can assure you, I was not spending the time that I had helping other people, I was barely holding it together. And the fact that he was able to do that is just sort of astounding to me.
He used what he had. He essentially turned his hospice room into a community meeting room.
Yeah, very much so. Town hall is so difficult to watch someone go through that process, especially since it was way more long drawn out than I think anyone expected it to be. Well, Emmett didn't expect it to be that long and drawn out. I went out of town. I was gone for New Year's. I went to visit some of my family, and we had said goodbye to each other. And I wrote him a note, and we said goodbye. And this was last few days of December. 100% did not expect him to be there when I got back, much less for it to be another 3 months. And it was sort of a blessing that we got that much time. I actually got that note back. Rachel gave me that note that I had written him back at the very end, which I didn't know he had even kept it.
Of course he did.
Yeah, of course he did. Looking back, it was really special. It's really difficult to watch someone go through that. And it's really difficult to be in that space for that long of a time. And I got out of it. And of course, I was grieving and very sad, but it felt peaceful. Of course, it's devastating, but it wasn't as much so as other deaths that I have experienced. There's a big difference when you're able to say goodbye like that and talk with the person, for it to be sort of a community thing where you know what's happening the whole way through and you're able to say those goodbyes, versus when my dad died when I was 15 and it was a surprise. We didn't know that anything was going on. It was just a surprise when he died. And that was extremely traumatic for me. Whereas I don't feel Emmett's death was traumatic for me. I feel like it was sad, but I didn't feel it was traumatic. A lot of that came out of the care that we all put into it and the community that we built. It's going to take a lot of effort overall, but that doesn't mean it takes a lot of effort from each individual person. It doesn't have to be a super organized thing from the start. It can be organic. It doesn't have to be one person or one group of people just sitting there organizing all of it. What was help make this work for us without stressing anyone out or causing strife between all of us is that there wasn't one person or a few people who were all of the pressure and weight was put on them. It was really spread out. It was everyone did their part to help out, and everyone lent something. Emmett's friend we met in 2014 when we were both sort of going through the diagnosis process for EDS. I don't remember if Emmett, if you were still going through the diagnosis process,
I was,
or you had just been diagnosed. Okay,
no, I was still going.
Yeah, so we sort of connected over that. You were one of my first people that I met in the chronic illness community, and I connected with you on not just that we were going through the diagnosis for the same illness, but we're both queer, Jewish people. I also lost my father when I was a teenager, and like we connected on that. And you've just been a really like a bright point in my life for the past 4 years, and I really appreciate that, and I appreciate what you've done to help me and so many others when we were having hard times. And I just thank you for everything.
Stacey, I'm not looking at you right now because you know I can't turn my head that way, but I want you to know that even though I'm not looking at you, I love you.
I love you.
Ozi Vizimratya Vayehi Yeshua Ozi Vizimratya Vayehi Yeshua Zimradya Vayehi Vishua Ozi Zimradya Vayehi Vishua Zimradya Vayehi Vishua Ozi Zimradya Vayehi Vishua You can airdrop it. Yeah. I think. Is it a long video? Because you could probably just send it. Yeah. Okay, you can air. Is it gonna pause it? Okay. Zimradya
Zimradia Zimradia